that maybe the modern day Lebanese people might be a bit more libertarian than
Well,
American.
right now that's sounding like it to me. It's everything that you've told me about it makes it sound as if even our libertarian. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to. I muted that, or yeah, I'm muting.
Okay. Well,
Okay, it is now muted. I'm gonna let it play. And yeah, it says that we're talking about burial and cremation. So I have
oh yeah,
to
I know. You know what's
figure.
funny is I'm going to your channel. I want to share it too, but for some reason I'm just not seeing the live one. But anyway, I guess
Yeah,
I'll.
well, wait a minute till I try to figure out how I can edit it.
Okay.
So the problem is I'm actually still logged in at YouTube for the other channel.
Oh, I see.
So I guess I have to sign out there and then
Oh,
sign
is it streaming on the other channel?
Yeah, but I have to, if I'm going to edit it, I have to be on the other channel. I can watch it without being on the other channel, but I can't edit.
No, you can't. I'm trying to find it live because I want to share, but I guess we're live anyway. So we're gonna be
I
talking
think
about.
we are, but hold on till I find it myself.
Yeah.
I need to,
I was just gonna say briefly to anybody tuning in, we're gonna be talking about a topic. I think it's a continuity of something we were talking about Friday night Phoenicians about what's happening in Lebanon, and it's very interesting because they're not really covering it that much in the Western press. They are to some extent, but just to kind of play up. It was funny. I saw a clip actually where they were talking about all these world protests, and they brought up like violent protests in Ecuador and other countries, but the ones in Lebanon have pretty much been peaceful protests where people are dancing, like you showed us a clip of. People are making human chains, they're talking, they're out in the street just showing their solidarity for wanting an end of corruption, of government corruption. And it doesn't really seem like that's what's being, like the few stories I've actually begun to read on CNN and NBC, it doesn't really feel like they're showing the more positive side of this movement. So I find it very interesting because I almost think like it may be a stretch of the sense, maybe not everybody, but it seems that the Lebanese people are uniting together and they're actually becoming a bit more liberty minded than Americans because they're tired of government corruption. They've seen the problems with taxation, with their communication platform, WhatsApp, like having a proposed tax because, the government can't even supply electricity at a fair rate because they have a monopoly on, the electric. They don't collect trash adequately. There's just so many problems. They're loaning money, borrowing money from the central banks and going into debt. It's very interesting what's happening actually in Lebanon. I see a lot of parallels to, our early history where people were concerned with central banks and things of that nature. So that was just some of what I got from the whole situation. I mean, it's a very new development, but it's very interesting because, of course, they're not really talking about it to that extent. The only thing that I really saw on the Western media was Donald Trump was going to freeze foreign aid to Lebanon. And in this case, it wasn't exactly a bad thing when he said he was going to do that, because he said he didn't think that we should just give no strings attached foreign aid to a country when there seems to be like social unrest there, which was kind of interesting. Like people are always criticizing his foreign policy, but maybe it's not always even, but maybe in that case, it was not so bad, Why do we give, strings attached foreign aid to other countries?
Well, I don't think we should give any foreign aid to any country at all. I think that would be the best policy. we're actually corrupting the countries that we do give foreign aid. Julia, can you check and see whether I managed to change the topic of, if you go into the description, does it match what we're talking about?
The problem is I'm on the ICAT second channel and I still don't see, like, I don't see a live video.
Well,
let me see, unless it ended up, it didn't, because I keep refreshing it.
okay. I'll tell you what, I will go and share it on Twitter, and you can find it on Twitter after I've shared it. How about that? Would
Okay.
that work?
Yeah, so you're going to share it on Twitter, right?
Yes, I am going to do that as soon as I figure out how to do that. Just a moment. So I'm on
and I think it's all fine, because since I don't know where we're at, like, hello, everybody. You should read some of the stories that about what's going on in Lebanon if you're curious.
Okay. So I found it. I found it on my other computer, and I am going to again. I have to stop and I'm going to share it once it lets me. And I share it on Twitter.
Okay.
This computer is a bit slow, so I got to Twitter.
Okay, I see us now. Yeah. Okay, here it is, finally. Maybe I was just being premature, or there's a delay.
Oh, okay. So you didn't have to go to Twitter. You found it elsewhere.
No, it finally popped up. I should have just been a little bit more patient. That was it, you know. It's here now.
Can you check and see if I managed to change the description to not be about burial?
Okay. It says Lebanon in the news. People are protesting taxation and central banking. Nassim Taleb is involved. So actually, no, we got it.
Okay, good. So now would be a good time to share it on social media.
Okay.
Now that the description is correct. And
yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Let me share it now. I'm just going to share it on our wall real fast.
Okay. And I think what we can do is we can start out by sharing that small video of people protesting peacefully that I sent you. Could we do that? And that way we'll set the scene for what's really going on there. And then later we can listen to Nassim Taleb talking about.
Sure. So I just want to bring it up to where things aren't popping up. Let me go back to where the video
right.
was. Okay.
It's just amazing that those things are happening there. And of course, I don't listen to the news, but I don't think the news is telling people that they're protesting taxation of WhatsApp. I don't think that people know that.
No, because, you know, the news isn't going to want you to know that, because, well, think about it, because they want you to just know the stories, like, basically American, just from what I have seen, they want you to just focus on, oh, what is Donald Trump doing? What are the Democrats doing? Like, to me, that's pretty much all we see, that I'm seeing anyway. So correct me if I'm wrong. Like, do you see much other news stories about issues on taxation or how the national debt's worldwide? Or
only in my libertarian circles, I see a little bit of that. But I'll tell you what you've just told me is going on in Lebanon. It makes it sound as if they've gone back to 1776, whereas here we've joined the Gulag. I mean, that's really what it's sounding like to me.
Yeah, no, definitely. You know what's so strange is I saw the video when you sent it to me, and I'm going through the chat, and maybe I typed, oh, here it is. No, I see. That's strange. Like, it was right. I kid you not. So I'm slowly going through the chat. And I keep going back to the very first video, or maybe that's the one I shared with you. See, I don't mean to seem so disorganized, but anyway, I think that we definitely, this is what I kind of think. Lebanon went through that horrible civil war, which is akin to kind of like the American Revolution, and they've had corrupt politicians. Okay, I found it. So,
All right, good.
okay, but I want to make it big, so hold on here.
Okay, so this is a very short clip that Julie is going to show us of people protesting peacefully, and it starts out with barbecue. So they're having, they're protesting, but they're also eating barbecue and dancing, and they look very happy. It's not.
By the way, I think it's a good. I'm so glad we're seeing these depictions because it's going to show you how things could be, not the narrative that they. I feel excited about this. So anyway, I'll go to the video. Stop. Anyway, here we go. Can you see it now?
Yes. Yeah, I can see it.
I'll make it a little bit bigger. Okay. I love it when they dance like this.
Yeah, can you play it again because I didn't hear it.
Do you want me to play it again or is that enough?
Yeah, that's enough. I'm not sure it went at the normal rate because it felt like it was a little bit slow. Did it feel slow to you?
See, I'm just seeing it on my end, so I can't really say. I'm going to stop sharing because I don't want to.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's talking. I don't know. Oh, gosh. I
I
don't know what's talking. Hold on. Something's talking.
Residents from New York City to Florida, and it also comes after he was booed at a.
Did you shut off the? Are you out of Facebook now?
Yeah, but I had to do it real fast. Okay. So
Okay.
anyway, that was strange. But anyway, yeah, I think it's really interesting because I feel like for years, the news always kind of made me feel like frustrated and negative because that's the narrative that they're always pushing, Aya, and it just got worse and worse. And the 2016 election was so discouraging. But I don't know, when I watch like their peaceful protests, they're dancing, they're eating barbecue, like how is that negative? Like it seems like they are more hopeful and looking for the positive, like wanting to make positive change than what I'm seeing here right now.
Right. So again, the WhatsApp thing, just to set people, get people thinking about this in the correct context. A lot of people do not use, they don't have a phone line, so they communicate with each other through WhatsApp, right?
Yeah, and it's cheaper because look, right now the government has a monopoly on communications, on electricity, which there's intermittent failures with that, with garbage collection, which they do an abysmal job of collecting. So of course, maybe people would rather do WhatsApp because it's effective, they can afford it. And then once something is free, just kind of like here, when they want to come in and they want to regulate everything, they want to tax it.
Right, right. So they're saying no taxation on WhatsApp. And you know what? Maybe that's like the T-tax because it sounds like such a small tax, right? We just want to tax a little bit. But they understand that their freedom is going to go away if that happens.
Exactly, because it's just another way that they're looking to collect taxes. And Nassim Taleb, he did an interview in Arabic with another Lebanese person. I have never heard of him before, but he was talking about just the problems with patronage, and which is kind of like the spoils system from the days of, Jackson, where all these people in the sectarian government know somebody, so somebody else gets a kickback. And of course they want to put a tax on WhatsApp. They see this as another revenue stream, which is ruining their economy. No wonder they're becoming more liberty-minded because I guess like it's almost impossible to build anything. You have to get so many different permits. There's so many kickbacks. And Nassim Taleb said there's a large expatriate community because of all these issues with taxation. the country going to debt, but he says it much more in depth on that video.
Okay, well, since you have seen it and I have not, do you want to select a portion for us to share with the viewers?
Yeah, so I think just like there were a couple things at the very beginning because I've watched, well, I read it because it's in Arabic. I don't speak Arabic, but you know, I would like to, anyway. I will get that to pop up right now. So let me bring that back. Was there anything else that you wanted to share about things happening in Lebanon or just observations you've seen about Lebanon while I'm looking for the video, Aya?
Well, I honestly must admit that I don't know half the things about Lebanon. I am getting much more interested in it for a number of different reasons, and it's all merging together. I started to read Nassim Taleb's books, and obviously he's from Lebanon. So, but before that, I was also interested because of the Phoenicians.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of this is coming together. Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I thought perhaps you were about to share it with us.
Oh no, I wanted you to finish what you were saying. I'm so sorry.
Oh, no. No, so I'm kind of excited about how everything is becoming juxtaposed together. I did a review of a Lebanese restaurant today, and as I was looking for the menu so I could share it on my review, I found that video of those people who were protesting peacefully with barbecue. So to me, I feel as if there's a plot and everything is coming together, and I'm very excited about it.
I am too, because you know, like I told you, my dad's grandma was Syrian. My grandpa was born in the US, but Syrian, culturally Syrian. But I think they were more Lebanese because like I've looked at my 23andMe result and I know that I had ancestors that lived in Lebanon. And I don't know why, but I was always fascinated, like when they did news stories about Israel, Lebanon, Jordan, and you know, Syria too, but it always fascinated me and I couldn't really figure out why. But especially Lebanon, like I was always very intrigued by Lebanon. But I would say with my 23andMe result and just what I know about where our family used to live, I think that our family tree is much more on that, my dad's side of the family, more Lebanese in a way, because yes, it's Syria is a modern country, so they're going to say Syrian, right? But it's Syrian Lebanese, and they have this shared Phoenician past, and they don't consider themselves Arabs. And I've always very fascinated with Lebanon, just culturally, and I feel like they've been misportrayed in the media. And I just find this refreshing that we're getting to see like what's really happening there, as opposed to something like that happened 30 years ago. Like they keep pushing that down, like, oh, like, you know, that civil war 30 years ago, everybody's fighting. But that's not what we're seeing today. But anyway, I guess I'll go ahead and I will share part of the video, okay?
Okay.
Okay. So I'm gonna put it in so we can hear them speaking Arabic, but there are English subtitles.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
يعني انت تحط سيتك الملوكي بصوره غير رأسيه indirect غير مش ضروري اوكي غير مباشره بصوره البنك بيحطها مع الدوله ما بيتدينوا وبيرجع بكمل العمليه. ما انا دائما اذا واحد ماتت خالته ما عنده اولاد خليت له $281. Okay.
Did you get that part? So basically, he was saying, everybody says, I had an aunt and she was childless and she just happened to leave me like $100,000. It was basically talking about the government kickbacks, corruption, how people get this money, you know, just because they know somebody, blah, blah, blah. That's kind of what he's talking about here.
Okay. Yeah, so he's saying two options.
بتقبض الفايده العاليه يا بتروح تدفع فيها مصلحه. يعني الواحد لازم يكون عنده مشاكل بالحسابات. اذا فتح مصلحه في تقبض على قد من الدوله الدوله قتلت كل شيء في اقتصاد تدريجيا الى 4 5 سنين عم تقتل. يعني انه كانه الدوله شيء فايته عم تدمر الاقتصاد المحلي. هذه اول شغله صارت. وبعدين من هيك انا بقول الرياض ساعد بالشغله لانه هو اكيد يعني اذا منه معه خبر انه داخل ديبوزي في مشاكل. اوكي هيدا اول شغله. ثانيا هيدا ما مشكله لانه اذا بنشوف الميزانيه تبعنا ما عندنا يعني في عندنا شويه عجز صغير يعني ماشي.
Okay, maybe I should fast forward to the part where he talks about sectarianism. Oh no, here's about. Okay, this part's good too. The problem government is the patronage.
عندك سرقه وعندك باترونج. السرقه انه اكيد تعمل تقبض كوميسيون تعطي الكفاله على تقبض كوميسيون. هيدي بين دغري وهيدي بنلقطها شو في سهوله انه تعرف وين المصاري راح.
انت عم تقول تريسد لانه
كثير عيني من وقت
تحويلات مطلوبه
بعد 12 ايلول 2001 بلشت الدول تطلعوا المصاري بيروحوا. هلا عندهم قدره انه يلاقوا وين المصاري. هيدي ما فيها
يرفعوا الحريه المستقيمه. هو هذا المشكل اللي عم يطالبوه.
هيدا يعني ما مش مشكله. هيدا المشكله انا بشوف هي اطلع من هيك وهي انه عندها باترونج بيضايق الحياه الاقتصاديه كثير لانه الباترونج هو ما بيبين. الباترونج انه بتعطي انت كوبريات لاصحابك.
Spoil system.
صوره شرعيه.
مضبوط.
انه ما بتعطي العائله بتعطي العائله بتعطي انه لا هذا لا منه حنان منيح نسيته منيح اما عملنا نوع من كشف وما لقينا عنده عديت هيداك. هيدا الباترونج ما بده
التلزيمات.
الباترونج لا انه مثلا هاي التلزيمات كل شيء مثلا جينا صارت تفضل بالدوله. هي المشكله كل ما كبرت الدوله كل ما كبر الباترونج.
مضبوط.
كل ما كبرت الدوله كل ما صار في ما بيبين الباترونج. وعندك انت شو مبدا الباترونج هيدا هي الدوله بتكبر حالها. يعني كل هلا عندك طوائف كل طائفه بتصير مصريين. هذا باترونج وبيعملوا لك حياه
عنده شيء
عم يعملوا لك حياه عقاريه. كل الشركه بدك مليون اذن ويصعبوا لك اياها واشياء هيك وملفات. فهمت علي؟ هيدا الباترونج. فالباترونج المشكله انه في بلاد مثلا في مناطق في سرقه. في باولو سليم معلوف هو كثير معروف بالبرازيل. هو في الانغامي واقتنع من السياسه بيقول لك انا بسرق بس بدفع.
ايوه بالضبط. هذا يعني
هي بس باولو سليم هيك بيعترف فيها. ما عندنا باولو سليم معروف. هون بيسرقوا ما بيدفعوا. هون بيقبضوا ما بيدفعوا. صار ساعه. هذا كله حدد الحياه الاقتصاديه وسببت كل هالاجراء العنايه. هلا العالم ما مبسوطين لانه عندنا لنا دين.
Do you want me to keep playing it, or maybe like try to fast forward to the part where he talks about his concerns with the Arabists taking over?
Yes, yeah, go ahead and do that if you know where that is.
I think it's around the 9-minute mark. He does talk a little bit about the cat. I would recommend people watch, like I need to finish. Okay. This is the part that I thought was very interesting.
Okay.
يقولوا لك ايه احنا ليك عندك انت مشاكل هذا المشاكل جايه من الراسماليه وكله هذا مشاكلنا ما جايه من الراسماليه بس جاي من السرقه من عدم تطبيق في قوانين وجاي نظام. بيقولوا لك ايه انت ليه في شيء اسمه الاشتراكيه العالميه طبقوها وين؟ مصر بسوريا وبالعراق. هيك شو صار فيهم؟ وكيل هذا الغلاء الفلسطيني بيكبروا السوشيال هذا الغلاء كان بكل المشروعات بيتصل لي بيقول لي نحن لو ما فتنا بول الطيارات الكبار كنا هلا دمرنا حالنا وهذا الغرض. فما فيك هذا كل هالمبادئ جايين يعملوا لك معرفيه اشتراكيه كله هذا بتصير مثل فنزويلا. يعني عندنا مشاكل مش قد فنزويلا بصير ساعتها مثل فنزويلا.
ليش من لانه كل ما يعني احكي مع ناس بيقول لك ما هن الفنزويليه صار فيهم هيك لانه عليهم سانكشن وامريكا ضاغطه عليهم وعم تعمل
بعدين كلنا بلش من امريكا ومن غير سوريا.
Okay, he has the same view. Nassim has the same view as I do about the Venezuelan situation, but the other guy was mentioning what you had mentioned about sanctions.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah, exactly. Well, this morning when I was looking at US news stories, British news stories, the only thing you were hearing was, oh, Donald Trump wants to cut military aid to Lebanon because he doesn't want to give out no strings attached military aid, which is actually a story from Donald Trump that's not completely negative, because why do we give no strings attached military aid anyway? Like, why do we do that? But yeah, it's a good point. So I think people probably could watch the rest of this video themselves. So I'll go out of sharing it. But I just thought it was interesting, like that Nassim Taleb is, don't leave the meeting, Julia. Anyway, I was about to leave. Never mind. Anyway, I just thought that was fascinating because this is what he's been alluding to. And I have my theory. I think he just doesn't want to come out to his American audience because he's on CNBC and he wants to be a little bit more mysterious about it until maybe he sees the direction these protests are going, because maybe he doesn't want to say anything where somebody like he's that video you sent to me, Aya, he said he likes to be very careful about what he endorses and the products that he supports. So maybe he's an early supporter of this movement, but he has concerns, like he doesn't want the socialists, the Marxists, and the Arabists to take it out. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And I think it's very interesting that he juxtaposes the idea of being socialist and of being an Arabist, and then he mentions his Palestinian friend who said, this is what's had us sunk is that kind of thing.
Yeah, because back before, well, this all started with, let's go back to the British, like the British coming in, imposing their mandate. Like they're the ones that kind of started a lot of these issues, because it's a non-issue before the British came. And I feel like they created a lot of this, and a lot of socialist ideas came from Britain. And that's because I think essentially like people lived in Palestine like for thousands of years, and they may have had their conflicts, but it wasn't this modern pan-Arabist socialist one, which basically it's kind of the same thing here where, the left was like, oh, we are going to be friends with this Arab. And I'm not like anti-Arab, by the way. It's not that. It's just the whole socialist idea that we're all going to join hands and we're all on the right side of freedom. But really what they want to do is they want to take people's money and impose more taxes and drive up the cost of living. And what is that doing in Lebanon and Venezuela?
Yeah. Yes. So that the only concern is if people are protesting taxation, sort of like the Tea Party movement before the right-wing weirdos took over it. Is there any fear that maybe some religious fanatics might take over? Religious fanatics, Arabists, Islamicists would take over that movement and turn it into something that it was not intended to be.
That thought was in the back of my mind, and Nassim Taleb said it out loud. But what's interesting today is that you had a peaceful protester the other day, I think, and a Hezbollah group was trying to attack people that were having a peaceful protest in the camp. And boy, is that interesting. Like they love that sectarian violence. They love, because their whole ideology is going down the drain with the end of sectarianism. people holding hands from like all walks of life, all faiths, that, and yet a lot of the young people that were out there just wanting to support each other and say, you know, these taxes are ruining our country. That's the end of them. Like if everybody were to get on that bandwagon, they were scared. They attacked the peaceful protesters.
Yeah. So that's what we always have to watch out for. And then sometimes the violence is attributed to the people who were never violent to begin with.
Yes, that's true. But I think this is once again where we have to kind of think beyond what is the news story that they're showing on television? What is the news story that they keep replaying over and over again on the news? Like, you need to read stories. And I'm so glad that I read a lot of international stories and this popped up on my radar, because one day I was just looking at Twitter. I don't even look at Twitter that much anymore. And this just popped up and I'm like, what is that? Like, what's going on?
Right. No, it's very good that you're onto this. And what I think we need is somebody on the ground who can tell us what's really going on in Lebanon.
Well, I would definitely, if somebody wants to, maybe in the comments, like, I think this would be a great opportunity for somebody that may be in Lebanon. If you could just comment below, like, I hope I'm getting all this right. I hope my interpretations of what's happening is correct. I would love to be corrected because I want to understand exactly what's happening.
Right. So do we have any comments at this point?
I'll have to go look and don't. Okay, hold on one sec. I'm gonna bring it up and go check. So right now I haven't seen anybody commenting, but it is Sunday night. So perhaps the time of day, like, I think maybe we'll get some comments later. So what I'm hoping is maybe if nobody's commenting here in the live chat, maybe somebody can leave a comment later on.
Well, here's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to see if I can share it on my community tab.
Okay.
Here. So if I can find it on my phone. So it's my subscriptions, and I believe I'm subscribed to this channel. All right. And so if I open it up here, and I believe I'm subscribed to, okay. Now if I can just share that on my community tab, I invite people to come and talk to us. I'm going to say Julia and I are talking about what is happening in Lebanon. Come and participate. This channel. Okay. Okay. And so if I open it up. Okay. I just needed to. So now I've shared it on Twitter. I've shared it on my other channel. And Julia, have you shared it on Facebook?
I've shared it on Facebook in 2 different places, and now I see we do have somebody new watching, so hopefully that's a good thing. Anyway.
Yeah, I don't think there's any place else in the world right now that people are actually protesting taxation. I mean, for instance, do you remember when there used to not be a tax on things that you bought on Amazon, and then all the states moved to start taxing Amazon purchases?
Yeah, and then they took away people's independent contractor earnings. And the only reason we got it back in California, the only reason was because there's just so many people in California and people were mad. The economy was tanking at that time. It was like 2011. And some people, that was a main income stream. So there were actually people that here in California, you can get petitions and get signatures. And if you get so many thousand signatures, you can get something put on the ballot. So there were people that were just so upset about that they took to the streets, like they were in front of Walmart, in front of different shopping centers, gathering signatures in favor of giving back, you know, our revenue. But guess what? Ever since we got our revenue back, I don't really make that much with it anymore. It's not like I make a lot. I got one payout in 3 years. It was like $15.
Is it because of the taxes, or how do you explain that?
I can't explain it, but I think it's because of the taxes, because before they took it away, I was starting to do pretty good with it. I was starting to make maybe like $25 every other month. I mean, that's not a living, don't get me wrong, but that was actually, it was groceries. Like you could buy groceries for a week with that money. And it just seems like around that time, Google Panda came in and they were hurting our search engine traffic. They took away our earnings. You know, there were just all these things that were coming together at that time. And it didn't seem like any of it was to help people that could have benefited from that extra income stream. I don't see how.
Right, but I did not see anybody protesting this here in Missouri, none at all. So it's just amazing that in a country such as Lebanon, where, you know, you would think that they're kind of would be afraid of their government, would be afraid that there would be ramifications, would be afraid that people would blacklist them if they were protesting. And yet here they are, they're protesting taxation of something as small as WhatsApp.
I think it's just gotten to the point in the people in Lebanon have nothing left to lose. The unemployment rate is sky high. Since the civil war in Syria, like millions of Syrians have come in. They're becoming kind of a strain on their economy. The trash is not being collected. Like literally, that was one of the complaints, was that the government has a monopoly on trash collection, and the trash wasn't being collected like periodically. It was becoming a public hygiene concern. Electricity was intermittent. I think people are just so fed up, they feel like they have nothing to lose anymore. I wonder if that's why. And maybe another thing too is like, I feel like I'm learning a lot more about Lebanon. And I feel like a lot of my imagery or thoughts about Lebanon are just based on these old news stories that they keep promoting all the time. I feel like I want to learn more about what modern Lebanon is, because it's much different than what I thought. I'll put it that way.
Okay, well, in what way? Could you share what you've learned recently about how it's different from the way it is portrayed in the media?
Well, I guess because maybe it's just because I haven't read up enough on Lebanon in recent years, is I thought they were still just in favor of sectarianism. I thought that the Christian and Muslim communities didn't really see eye to eye on things, and they like to keep to themselves, and they were happy with, you know, the president being a Christian and a prime minister being a Muslim. It just seemed like I thought that they enjoyed that sectarian division after the Civil War. That's the impression I got, but I have to be honest with you, I haven't read up on the modern current events until recently of what's going on.
Well, from what I've heard from Nassim Taleb, and he was a very young man at the time of the Civil War, everybody before that, everybody got along. It's not like they hated each other. It's not like they cared that somebody else had a different religion. So it was something that was drummed up by
Yasser Arafat.
yeah.
He was a pretty bad person, you know, like I hate to say it, but I don't know.
Absolutely.
Well, for him to get up with King Hussein and Bill Clinton at those peace accords and act like he was so pro-peace, he like threw a bomb into a movie theater. He did some pretty bad things. And I'm sorry, I don't want to get all political here, but you know, he did some bad things. And I think he had some negative influences on that. Not him solely, but others as well.
Yeah. So Yeah,
Those are just
I think
my opinions. So nobody has to be offended by it. It's just my opinion.
yeah, I think we're on the same page here. But I remember way back when my father used to believe that Israel and Lebanon could work together, and that we could build something really big together.
I think you could. I think Lebanon and Israel could. They're the same people. I think it's just these modern, like all this started when the British and French mandates came in, when they started creating these divisions between people. It wasn't like that before then. Under the Ottoman Empire, there may have been a couple of like squabbles, but in general, for thousands of years, people lived in relative peace with each other.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
like Khalil Gibran is an example. His father was a Muslim, and I don't remember exactly why, but he was traveling through this Christian village and he fell in love with Khalil Gibran's mother and he converted to Christianity.
Mhm.
And it didn't seem to be a problem for him. Like it wasn't like what it is now where people were so like divisive. And I think it's changing again though.
Yeah. Yeah, I think most ordinary people don't want to be at war with one another, and they don't have a problem with people from somewhat different backgrounds.
Yeah. And also too, like there are different backgrounds, but it's not all that different. Like,
Right.
well, like kosher and halal, like don't they have very many similarities in cuisine and
Yes.
things like that?
Yeah. Yes, they do. Not that I would embrace either one of those, but yes, they do indeed.
Well, I'm just thinking because I'm thinking of people living in this region of the world, and that's just one example. I would love somebody from Lebanon to tell us things because I don't want to get anything wrong. So please comment.
Yeah, we're actually, here's our mission. We consider ourselves to be citizen journalists, which means that no, we don't have any press passes. Nobody has given us some sort of sanctioned privilege of the press. We're just ordinary people, but we would love to share information with fellow citizens, and would like to hear from people from all around the world, from their own perspective. And I think that way we can bypass the mass media that may not be telling us everything.
Well, I got part of that. I got what I got was we want people to share their stories so we can find out what's really happening, correct?
Yes, yes, absolutely. And because we're not getting that on the news. We're just not.
Yeah, no, we're definitely not. And also too, like I think it would be interesting to see what happens with these protests. Like I hope for the best for them. Like if maybe it will result in a better government or more equitable, fair laws, perhaps. That would be great.
It would be. It would indeed. But wouldn't they have to sort of rewrite their constitution? Do you think
Oh,
there's
yes. And the patronage is probably not going to be in favor of that anytime soon. That's the problem. You would have to remove them.
so maybe the next step is a constitutional convention to rewrite their constitution.
That would probably be a great step. And I just find it refreshing. Like, oh, you have a group of people, like they're uniting. They're not calling each other names. Americans, why are we doing that to each other? Why are we fighting with each other all the time? Like, why? I'm just glad that some people aren't anymore. The people that you were betrayed to fight with each other all the time are kind of not doing that anymore. And we're going the other way, like you pointed out earlier.
Yes, I mean, even inside the Libertarian Party, It's more about what we disagree with each other about than what we agree. A lot of the time.
Was my disappointment with that libertarian forum on Facebook. You know, there were some interesting posts there, but I was disappointed because it seemed like a lot of people were just always creating arguments with each other. And I thought it was going to be a place where people could get together and share ideas.
Right. But I mean, even within the party, within the leadership of the party, they're so snipey, you know, with each other. And it's not called for, really.
Yeah, no, definitely not. I guess the 2016 election's a prime example. Like Austin Peterson probably should have been the VP, but then they picked someone else who clearly.
Well, Austin Peterson actually refused to run for VP, so it's complicated. But I think that we should change the bylaws so that the person with the second highest number of votes just automatically becomes the VP. And that way, when people are running for the presidential nomination, they know that they might end up getting the vice presidential, and they have to agree to that to begin with, you know?
Yeah, I think that would solve a lot of problems in elections nationwide as well. But unfortunately, I don't think anytime soon our government is going to go back to making the VP being the person with the second largest number of votes. Not on the same ticket. I don't foresee us going back in time to the. It's interesting that we decided that was a better change so early on in our government.
Well, that's because we threw away the idea that we weren't supposed to have parties. We threw that away. That was the whole point of that.
Yeah, exactly. But the parties are just getting worse. But I'm going to kind of stay out of that now because I feel like I've said enough about that. And I'm just going to focus on learning more, trying to understand other views. And when I do vote this coming time, I'm just not going to get involved with what everybody else is arguing about, I suppose.
Right. So here's what I think we should do. Maybe we should frequent more Lebanese restaurants and talk to the people who own them, who possibly have ties to Lebanon.
Oh, yeah.
And find out what they think about it and whether they know somebody who might be willing to talk to us who is there.
I think that's a great idea because I'm so curious. Like, I kind of want to hear from a citizen journalist. It would be really nice if we could get somebody to come on and do that.
Okay, so that's our mission. And I think we've covered all we know. There's a lot that we don't know. And we're not going to make it up because we're not doing fiction here right now. But we will find out from people who actually do know.
That sounds like a good plan, Aya.
Okay, well, thank you for talking to me, Julia, and sharing those videos.
Definitely. Well, I hope you have a wonderful evening.
You too. Good night.
Bye.